are moments in your life that don't feel ordinary, moments that carry a strange weight, a quiet urgency you can't explain. This is one of them. This is not just another message passing through your day. This is not random timing. This is not coincidence brushing against your awareness. No, this is alignment. This is precision. This is something that was set in motion long before you even realized you were searching for answers. And now, here you are. 5 minutes left. Not 5 minutes on a clock you can see, but 5 minutes in a spiritual window that has opened just for you. A moment where everything begins to make sense. If you stay, if you listen, if you allow yourself to finally see what has been hidden in plain sight your entire life. Because you felt it, haven't you? That quiet frustration when the same kinds of situations kept repeating. Different faces, same outcomes. Different places, same feelings. You told yourself it was bad luck. You told yourself it was just life being unfair. You tried to move on, to ignore it, to push forward, but something inside you kept whispering, why does this keep happening? That question followed you. It followed you through relationships that always worked but didn't. Through opportunities that felt right but slipped away. Through moments where you thought, this time will be different, only to find yourself standing in a familiar ending once again. And the most exhausting part, you started questioning yourself. You wondered if you were the problem. You wondered if you were missing something obvious. You replayed conversations in your mind. You analyzed your decisions. You carried the weight of confusion silently, because explaining it to others felt impossible. They didn't see the pattern. They didn't feel what you felt. But you knew something deeper was happening. And still, you kept going. You kept showing up. You kept trying. You kept hoping that one day, something would shift. That one day, clarity would arrive and finally connect all the pieces you've been carrying in your spirit. That day is now. Because Archangel Michael speaks in this moment, not with noise, not with chaos, but with a piercing clarity that cuts through every layer of confusion you've been living under. And the message is simple, but it will change everything. You were never stuck. You were being led. Every repeated moment, every delay, every unexpected turn, it was not random. It was not meaningless. It was part of a pattern, but not the kind you feared. A pattern designed not to trap you, but to prepare you. And right now, you are closer than you have ever been to understanding why. Closer than yesterday. Closer than any moment before this one. Closer to the truth that will shift how you see your past, your present, and what is about to unfold next. But here is the urgency. This understanding does not come to those who drift. It does not reveal itself to those who dismiss the moment. It comes to those who stay, to those who lean in, to those who recognize that something deeper is happening right now. You were guided here for a reason. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the next few moments will begin to uncover what has been hidden behind every cycle, every delay, every unanswered question. And once you see it, once it connects, you will never look at your life the same way again. So stay with this. Don't disconnect. Don't let your mind wander. Because what comes next is the beginning of everything making sense. Type I am ready in the comments if you feel this message reaching you. Blessing code 5050 is now activated around your path. There was a time when you tried to explain it away. You told yourself that what you were experiencing was normal, that everyone goes through ups and downs, that life simply moves in unpredictable ways. But deep within you, there was a quiet knowing that refused to be silenced. Because what you were facing was not random fluctuation, it was repetition. It was a pattern that followed you with unsettling precision, showing up in different forms but carrying the same emotional signature every single time. You saw it in your relationships. People entered your life with promise, with connection, with a sense of familiarity that felt almost destined. You opened your heart. You invested your energy. You allowed yourself to believe that this time would lead somewhere different. And yet, somehow, the ending always felt eerily similar. Misunderstandings that shouldn't have happened. Distance that came without explanation. A sudden shift in energy that left you standing there, wondering how something that felt so right could unravel so quickly. And each time, you were left not only with disappointment, but with a deeper question echoing within you. Why does this keep happening to me? But it didn't stop there. The pattern extended into your opportunities as well. Doors would open just enough for you to see what was possible. You would step forward with hope, with determination, with the belief that this was your moment. And then, without warning, something would block your path. A delay. A redirection. A circumstance you couldn't control. It wasn't outright failure, and that made it even harder to understand. It was always success, almost breakthrough, almost arrival. Close enough to taste, but never close enough to hold. And that almost began to weigh on you in ways you couldn't fully express. Even your inner world carried the imprint of this cycle. There were moments when clarity would rise within you, when you felt aligned, when everything seemed to make sense. You would feel strong, focused, certain of your direction. And then, just as quickly, confusion would creep in. Doubt would whisper. Your confidence would waver. It felt like being pulled forward and backward at the same time, like standing on ground that shifted beneath your feet the moment you tried to stand firmly upon it. And what made it even more difficult was that from the outside, no one could fully see it. To others, your life may have looked like a series of normal experiences. But you knew better. You felt the rhythm beneath it all. You sensed the invisible thread connecting each moment, each setback, each repeated emotional ending. It was as if you were walking through the same lesson over and over again, wearing different disguises, but carrying the same core message. This is where many begin to turn against themselves. And you came close. You questioned your decisions. You wondered if you were choosing the wrong people, the wrong paths, the wrong responses. You tried to fix yourself in ways that didn't address what was truly happening. You adjusted your behavior. You guarded your heart. You became more cautious, more observant, more restrained. And still the pattern continued. But hear this clearly now, because this is where the shift begins. The repetition was never meant to punish you. It was meant to reveal something to you. Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with unwavering authority, cutting through every layer of self-blame you have carried. The cycles you experienced were not signs of failure. They were signals pointing toward something deeper that your spirit was trying to understand, long before your mind could fully grasp it. Each repetition was not a reset, it was an invitation. An invitation to see what you had been conditioned to overlook. An invitation to recognize what had been operating beneath the surface of your awareness. Because patterns do not persist without purpose. They remain until they are understood. They repeat until they are revealed. And you, whether you realized it or not, were being guided through a process of recognition. A process that required time, experience, and yes, even discomfort. Not to break you, but to sharpen your awareness to a level where truth could no longer hide from you. And now, you are reaching that level. Now, the same situations that once confused you are beginning to feel familiar in a different way. Not because you are trapped in them, but because you are starting to see them clearly. You are beginning to recognize the signs earlier. You are noticing the shifts before they fully unfold. You are sensing what is aligned and what is not with a clarity that was not available to you before. This is not coincidence. This is awakening. The pattern you could not escape is the very pattern that has brought you here. Not to repeat it again, but to finally understand it. And once understanding arrives, repetition loses its power. You are not at the beginning anymore. You are at the edge of revelation. And what comes next will show you why none of it was ever wasted. Type I see the pattern in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 7171 is now surrounding your path. There is something you were never meant to see too early. Not because it was hidden from you permanently, but because revealing it too soon would have overwhelmed you before you were ready to understand it. What you experienced as repetition, what you felt as cycles, what you carried as confusion was never just about the surface events in your life. There was something deeper running through it all, something subtle, something consistent, something quietly shaping the direction of your experiences without ever fully revealing itself. This is the hidden dread. You could not touch it, yet you felt its effects. You could not name it, yet it influenced your choices, your reactions, your timing. It was present in the way certain people entered your life with familiar energy. It was present in the way situations unfolded in patterns that felt strangely predictable. It was present in the emotional weight that lingered even after things had ended. This thread was not physical, but it was powerful. And until now, it remained just beneath your awareness, guiding without being questioned. Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with clarity that does not confuse, but reveals. He shows you that this thread was not created to harm you, but it was influenced by what you had not yet seen. It was formed through layers of past experiences, unhealed moments, inherited beliefs, and spiritual sensitivity that you did not yet know how to fully use. It connected your past to your present in ways that kept repeating lessons until your awareness was strong enough to recognize them. You were not just living your life, you were responding to this thread. There were moments when your intuition whispered something to you, but you dismissed it. There were times when you felt a subtle discomfort around a person or situation, but you ignored it in favor of logic or hope. There were decisions you made not because they aligned with your deeper knowing, but because they felt familiar, comfortable, or expected. And every time that happened, the thread quietly pulled you back into the same cycle, not as punishment, but as continuation. This is why the pattern felt so persistent. Because what was controlling it was not external circumstances alone, it was internal alignment that had not yet been fully awakened. The thread operated through your perceptions, through your emotional responses, through your willingness to override what you sensed in favor of what you wanted to believe. And that is not weakness. That is simply where you were in your journey of awareness. But something has shifted. You are no longer responding the same way. You are no longer ignoring what you feel. You are no longer moving forward without questioning what your spirit is trying to show you. And because of that, the thread is no longer hidden in the same way it once was. It is being revealed to you, not as something to fear, but as something to understand. Because once you see the thread, you are no longer controlled by it. Archangel Michael reveals that this thread carried lessons, not limitations. It carried signals, not traps. It was designed to bring you to this exact moment of clarity, where you can finally step back and see the connection between everything you have experienced. The relationships, the delays, the repeated emotions, the almost breakthroughs, they were all connected by this underlying flow that was guiding you toward awareness. And now, you are ready to see it clearly. You are beginning to recognize the difference between what feels right and what is simply familiar. You are starting to notice the early signs before situations fully unfold. You are sensing shifts in energy, in tone, in alignment, long before they manifest in obvious ways. This is not coincidence. This is your awareness rising above the influence of the thread. And as your awareness rises, the thread loses its control. This is the turning point. Because from this moment forward, you are no longer moving unconsciously through patterns you do not understand. You are stepping into conscious awareness of what has been shaping your experiences. You are no longer reacting, you are recognizing. And recognition is what breaks repetition. You are not here to carry the same cycles forward. You are here to understand them, to see them clearly, and to step beyond them with intention. And now, you are closer than ever to doing exactly that. Everything is beginning to connect. Everything is beginning to make sense. But this is only the beginning of what is being revealed. What comes next will show you why even your confusion had a purpose and why your silence was never empty. Type I see the thread in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8282 is now activated around your awareness. As this hidden thread is being revealed, understand this. Every revelation you receive is not meant to stay with you alone. There are others still trapped in cycles, still searching for clarity, still waiting for a moment like this to awaken them. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are becoming a vessel that carries light into their darkness. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this is not distant scripture. It is a living promise over your life right now. I feel led to say this directly. I choose to act in this moment, because I know my seed unlocks someone else's breakthrough. Your giving becomes a river, flowing into lives that are on the edge of transformation just like you. Do not delay what your spirit is prompting you to do. Step into this act of obedience and release your seed now. There were moments when the weight of everything became too much to ignore. Moments when you stepped back from the repetition, from the patterns, from the outcomes that never seemed to change, and you turned inward with a question that felt heavier each time you asked it. Is it me? A question did not come from weakness. It came from exhaustion. It came from trying to make sense of something that refused to make sense in the way you expected it to. You replayed situations in your mind with precision. You analyzed your words, your actions, your decisions, searching for the exact point where things shifted. You tried to identify what you could have done differently, what you should have seen earlier, what you needed to change about yourself to finally break free from what kept repeating. And in doing so, you carried a burden that was never meant to be yours alone. Because what you interpreted as personal failure was often divine silence, and that silence confused you. There were times when you expected clarity, but instead, you received stillness. Times when you looked for answers, but none came in the way you anticipated. You prayed in your own way, you reflected, you waited, but what you received was not explanation, it was pause. And in that pause, your mind tried to fill the gap. Your thoughts began to create conclusions where truth had not yet been revealed. You assumed that silence meant something was wrong with you. You believed that the absence of immediate clarity was a sign that you were missing something obvious. But Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with a truth that changes how you understand those experiences completely. Silence was never abandonment, it was preparation. You were not being ignored. You were being held in a space where your awareness could grow without interference. Because if every answer had been given to you immediately, you would not have developed the depth of perception you carry now. You would have moved forward with information, but without understanding. And understanding is what transforms patterns, not just knowledge. Think back to those moments when you felt the most uncertain. When you stood at a crossroads without clear direction. When you sensed that something was off, but could not fully explain why. In those moments, something deeper was happening beneath the surface. Your awareness was stretching beyond what it had been before. Your ability to sense, to perceive, to recognize was expanding quietly, even when your mind felt lost. This is the difference between confusion and divine silence. Confusion overwhelms and scatters. It pulls your attention in multiple directions, leaving you uncertain and reactive. But divine silence, it centers. It slows everything down, not to leave you without answers, but to allow you to develop the capacity to receive them when they come. It removes noise so that when truth arrives, you can recognize it without distortion. You did not always understand this in the moment, and that is why you questioned yourself. You wondered why things felt unclear when you were trying so hard to do the right thing. You questioned your instincts when outcomes did not align with your expectations. You doubted your inner voice because external results seemed to contradict what you felt inside. And in those moments, you lean more heavily on logic, on external validation, on what made sense on the surface even when something deeper within you was trying to guide you differently. But now, something has changed. You are beginning to distinguish between the noise of confusion and the stillness of divine silence. You are starting to recognize that not every unanswered question is meant to be solved immediately. Some are meant to be lived through, experienced, and understood from a higher level of awareness that only comes with time. Archangel Michael reveals that those moments where you questioned yourself were not setbacks, they were thresholds. Each time you reached a point of uncertainty, you were standing at the edge of a deeper level of understanding. And even though you did not always step through that threshold with confidence, you still moved forward. You still continued. You still allowed yourself to grow, even when you felt unsure. That is why you are here now. Because the questions you carried then are beginning to find their answers now. The silence that once felt heavy is now revealing itself as purposeful. The confusion that once felt overwhelming is now being replaced with clarity that feels grounded, steady, and unmistakable. You are no longer searching in the same way. You are no longer questioning yourself from a place of doubt, but observing from a place of awareness. You are beginning to trust what you sense, even before it fully manifests. You are allowing yourself to pause without assuming something is wrong. You are understanding that clarity does not always arrive immediately, but when it does, it arrives with certainty. This is growth. This is alignment. This is the shift that changes everything moving forward. And as you continue, you will begin to see that even the moments where you felt lost were guiding you toward this exact point of understanding. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. Everything is beginning to align. Type "I trust the silence" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 9090 is now surrounding your path. There is a truth that is not always easy to accept, because it requires you to look beyond surface-level explanations and into the deeper influence of what has surrounded you. The patterns you experienced were not formed in isolation. They did not exist independently of the people you encountered or the environments you moved through. Every interaction, every space, every connection carried energy, carried influence, carried a subtle impact that shaped the direction of your experiences in ways you did not fully recognize at the time. You may have believed that each situation stood on its own, that each relationship, each opportunity, each environment was separate from the others. But now, as your awareness expands, you are beginning to see that there was a connection. Not always obvious, not always visible, but present nonetheless. A consistency in the type of energy you allowed around you. A familiarity in the dynamics that played out. A pattern not only within you, but around you. There were people who entered your life at moments when you were open, when you were seeking connection, when you were ready to move forward. And on the surface, they seemed aligned. They spoke in ways that resonated. They presented themselves in ways that felt safe, or even necessary for your growth at that time. But beneath that surface, there were elements you did not fully see. Not because you were unaware, but because your awareness had not yet reached the level it is now. Some of these people mirrored aspects of your past that had not yet been fully understood. They reflected patterns that felt familiar, even if that familiarity was not always beneficial. You were drawn to what you recognized, even if what you recognized was something you were meant to move beyond. And so, the same types of dynamics appeared, again and again, through different individuals, through different circumstances, but carrying the same underlying influence. This was not coincidence. It was alignment with what was still active within your awareness at that time. Archangel Michael reveals that the environments you moved through also played a role in reinforcing these patterns. The spaces you occupied, the conversations you engaged in, the expectations that surrounded you, all contributed to the continuation of what you were experiencing. Environments can either support clarity or cloud it. They can either elevate your perception or keep it anchored in what is familiar. And for a period of time, you were navigating spaces that reflected where you had been, rather than where you were meant to go. This is not about blame. It is about recognition. Because at the time, those people and those environments felt appropriate. They matched your level of understanding. They aligned with your current perspective. They were part of your process, even if that process included repetition and confusion. You were not in the wrong place, you were in a necessary phase of awareness. But something has shifted. You are no longer seeing people the same way. You are no longer responding to environments without noticing how they affect you. You are beginning to sense the difference between what supports your growth and what subtly pulls you back into familiar patterns. You are observing not just what is said, but how it feels. Not just what is presented, but what is beneath the surface. This shift is significant because it changes what you allow into your space. It changes how you respond to familiar dynamics. It changes what you recognize before it fully unfolds. There were moments in the past where you stayed in situations longer than you should have, not because you lacked awareness, but because you were still learning to trust what you felt. You gave time, energy, and presence to people and environments that did not fully align with where you were going, because part of you believed that things would change, or that you needed to see it through. And that is where the pattern continued. But now, you are no longer operating from that place. You are beginning to understand that not every connection is meant to continue. Not every environment is meant to be permanent. Some are meant to show you something, to reveal something, and then to be left behind as you move forward. And recognizing when that moment arrives is part of the awareness you are stepping into now. Archangel Michael makes this clear. The people and environments that played a role in your past were part of your preparation, not your destination. They contributed to your understanding, but they are not meant to define your future. And as you continue forward, you will notice something different. You will feel a natural distance from what once felt familiar. You will sense a shift in what you are drawn to. You will recognize misalignment earlier, without needing full proof or confirmation. This is not separation out of fear. This is alignment through awareness. You are no longer navigating blindly. You are no longer allowing patterns to form without recognizing them. You are choosing, consciously, what you allow into your space, into your time, into your life. And that choice changes everything. Because once you become aware of the influence around you, you no longer become shaped by it unconsciously. You begin to shape your path with intention. And this is where the pattern begins to lose its hold completely. What once repeated will no longer find the same place within you to continue. You are moving into a different level of alignment. And the people and environments that match that alignment will reflect something entirely new. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if this message resonates with you. Blessing code 6262 is now surrounding your path. There were moments when the waiting felt heavier than anything you had experienced before. Moments when you stood on the edge of something that felt right, something that felt aligned, something that felt like it was finally your time, and yet it did not happen. It paused. It shifted. It moved out of reach in ways that did not make sense to you in the moment. And what made it even more difficult was that you could see how close you were. You could feel it. You could almost touch it. But almost became a familiar place, and that familiarity began to wear on your spirit. You told yourself that maybe it just wasn't meant for you. You tried to accept that perhaps you had misread the signs, misunderstood the direction, or placed your expectations too high. You attempted to make peace with the idea that some things simply do not work out, even when they feel like they should. But even as you tried to accept that, something inside you resisted. Something within you continued to say, "This is not the full truth." Because it wasn't. What you experienced as delay was not denial. But you could not see that clearly at the time. Archangel Michael speaks into this moment with a clarity that redefines everything you thought you understood about timing. He reveals that what you interpreted as being held back was actually you being held in place. Not stuck but positioned. Not blocked but protected from stepping forward before the right alignment was in place. Because timing is not just about when something happens. It is about who you are when it happens. It is about what you understand, what you recognize, and what you are capable of sustaining once it arrives. There were things you desired deeply, things that felt like they belonged to you, things that you believed were meant to move forward in that exact moment. And yet, they did not. Not because they were wrong, but because something within you was still being prepared to receive them fully. Not partially, not temporarily, but in a way that would not lead you back into the same patterns you were still learning to understand. This is where the delay becomes meaningful. Because if certain doors had opened earlier, you would have walked through them with the same level of awareness you had at the time. And that awareness, though it was growing, was not yet complete. You would have carried the same patterns into new opportunities. You would have repeated the same cycles, even in different circumstances. And what felt like progress would have eventually returned you to the same place of confusion you were trying to move beyond. So the delay was not removing anything from you. It was refining what you carried into what was coming. There were moments when you felt ready, when everything within you said this is it. But readiness is not always measured by desire alone. It is measured by alignment. Alignment between your awareness, your perception, and your ability to recognize what is unfolding as it unfolds. And that level of alignment does not arrive instantly. It develops through experience, through reflection, through the very patterns you have been moving through. This is why the timing felt slow. Because growth is not always visible while it is happening. You were changing in ways you could not fully see at the time. Your perception was sharpening. Your ability to recognize patterns was strengthening. Your awareness of what aligned with you and what did not was becoming clearer. And all of that was necessary before certain things could move forward without repeating what had already occurred. Now, as you stand where you are, something feels different. The same types of opportunities do not feel the same anymore. The same types of connections do not carry the same pull. The same situations that once felt confusing now feel recognizable. This is not coincidence. This is alignment finally catching up with your awareness, Archangel Michael reveals that what is ahead of you is not being delayed anymore in the same way it once was, because you are no longer in the same place. You are not the same person moving through the same patterns. You are someone who has seen, who has learned, who has recognized what was once hidden. And because of that, what comes next will not unfold in the same way. You are not waiting in the same way anymore. You are not hoping without understanding. You are not reaching without recognizing. You are standing in a position where timing is beginning to align with awareness. And when that alignment happens, movement becomes different. It becomes clear. It becomes steady. It becomes undeniable. The delays that once frustrated you are now revealing themselves as necessary pauses that shaped your ability to move forward without repeating what you have already lived through. Nothing was taken from you. Nothing was withheld permanently. Everything was being prepared to arrive in a way that you could fully receive and sustain. And now you are closer than ever to that moment. Type "I trust the timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now activated around your path. There is a part of your journey that you rarely speak about in full detail. Not because you have forgotten it, but because putting it into words would require you to relive moments that shaped you in ways you did not expect. The pain you carried was not always visible to others. It did not always show itself outwardly. But within you, it left an imprint. A quiet, persistent imprint that influenced how you saw yourself, how you approached situations, and how you responded when things began to feel familiar again. You have asked yourself before why it had to feel that way. Why the lessons you learned could not have come through ease instead of discomfort. Why understanding had to be accompanied by moments that stretched you beyond what felt manageable at the time. And even now, there are parts of that pain that you may not have fully reconciled, parts that still echo and certain memories surface unexpectedly. But what you are beginning to understand now is that the pain was not placed in your path without purpose. It was part of your preparation. Archangel Michael speaks into this truth with a clarity that does not dismiss what you felt, but reframes it in a way that allows you to see its role in your growth. The pain you experienced was not random, and it was not excessive beyond meaning. It was precise. It reached exactly where your awareness needed to expand, even if it did so in a way that felt overwhelming at the time. There were moments when something ended abruptly, leaving you with questions that had no immediate answers. There were moments when trust shifted, when something you believed in changed in ways you could not control. There were moments when you felt misunderstood, when your intentions were not seen clearly, when your presence was not valued in the way you expected. And each of those moments carried an emotional weight that you had to process, often without external clarity. But within those experiences, something was happening that you could not fully see then. You were becoming more aware. Pain has a way of focusing your attention in ways comfort does not. It forces you to pause. It requires you to reflect. It brings your awareness to details you may have overlooked before. And in your case, it brought you closer to recognizing the patterns that had been repeating in your life. Without those moments, you might have continued moving forward without questioning what needed to be seen. You might have accepted situations at surface level without recognizing the deeper alignment beneath them. You might have continued engaging in patterns without realizing they were patterns at all. But because it hurt you, paid attention. Because it affected you deeply, you began to look closer. Because it disrupted what felt familiar, you started to question what was actually aligned with you. This is where pain becomes preparation. Not because it was necessary for suffering, but because it created awareness. There were layers within you that had not yet been fully understood. Emotional responses that were automatic. Patterns of thought that felt natural because they had been present for so long. And the pain you experienced brought those layers to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to make them visible. Archangel Michael reveals that what you went through was not meant to break your ability to trust, to connect, or to move forward. It was meant to refine how you do those things. It was meant to show you the difference between what aligns with you and what simply feels familiar. It was meant to shift your awareness so that you could recognize what is meant for you before you become deeply invested in it. And now that refinement is becoming clear, you are not responding the same way you once did. Situations that might have drawn you in without question before now give you pause. Interactions that once felt acceptable now feel different when you observe them more closely. You are noticing your own reactions, your own responses, your own instincts in a way that was not as clear before. This is the result of what you went through. The pain did not weaken your awareness. It strengthened it. It gave you the ability to recognize what you once overlooked. It allowed you to develop a sense of clarity that does not rely on external confirmation, but on internal understanding. And this is why it matters now. Because as you move forward, you are not carrying that pain in the same way. You are carrying the awareness it created. You are moving with a deeper understanding of what aligns with you, what supports your growth, and what does not belong in your path moving forward. The pain was not the destination. It was part of the process that brought you to this point of recognition. And now, as everything begins to connect, you can see that even those difficult moments were guiding you towards something greater than you could see at the time. Nothing you experienced was without purpose. Nothing you went through was without meaning. It all contributed to the clarity you are stepping into now. Type "I understand the lesson" in the comments if this message resonates with you. Lesson code 4545 is now surrounding your path. There is a shift happening within you right now that cannot be reversed. It is subtle, yet undeniable. It is quiet, yet powerful. It is not something you learned from others, and it is not something that was handed to you directly. It is something that formed within you over time, shaped by every experience, every delay, every moment of confusion, every instance where you had to rely on something deeper than what was visible in front of you. This shift is your discernment awakening. Before, you sensed things but you questioned them. You felt certain energies, certain inconsistencies, certain undercurrents in people and situation, but you often gave them the benefit of the doubt. You explained them away. You chose to trust what was being shown on the surface rather than what you were feeling beneath it. And in doing so, you moved forward in ways that kept you connected to the very patterns you were meant to eventually recognize. But now, something is different. You are no longer dismissing what you sense. You are no longer overriding your internal awareness to maintain comfort or familiarity. You are beginning to see things as they are, not as you hoped they would be. And this is where everything changes. Archangel Michael reveals that discernment is not judgment. It is not about labeling people or situations as right or wrong in a simplistic way. It is about clarity. It is about recognizing alignment or misalignment without needing full external proof. It is about sensing what is consistent beneath the surface, even when appearances suggest otherwise. And this clarity is now active within you. There were times when you needed repeated experiences to recognize a pattern. You needed to go through the full cycle before you could understand it. But now, you are noticing things much earlier. You are recognizing subtle shifts in tone, in behavior, in energy. You are aware of inconsistencies that once went unnoticed. You are picking up on what is not being said just as much as what is being said. This is not overthinking. This is awareness. This is the direct result of everything you have moved through. Your discernment has been shaped by your experiences, refined by your pain, strengthened by your willingness to reflect and understand. It has become a quiet guide within you that does not demand attention, but is always present, always observing, always signaling what aligns and what does not. And now, you are listening. You are beginning to trust that inner recognition without needing to justify it immediately. You are allowing yourself to pause when something feels off, even if you cannot fully explain why. You are no longer rushing to move forward simply because something appears promising on the surface. You are taking the time to observe, to feel, to understand before you engage. This is a level of awareness you did not have before, and it changes how you move through everything. Archangel Michael makes this clear. Your discernment is your protection, not in a fearful sense, but in an aligned sense. It allows you to navigate your path without repeating what you have already experienced. It gives you the ability to recognize what belongs in your life and what does not, without needing to go through the full cycle again to confirm it. This is why everything feels different now. Situations that once would have drawn you in immediately now give you space to observe. People who once would have felt instantly familiar now reveal layers you notice more clearly. Opportunities that once would have seemed perfect now show details you take into consideration before moving forward. You are not closing yourself off. You are seeing clearly. And clarity does not limit your path. It refines it. You are no longer navigating through uncertainty in the same way. You are moving with awareness that allows you to recognize what aligns with you at a deeper level. And this awareness is what separates where you were from where you are now. Because discernment removes repetition. It removes the need to learn the same lesson multiple times. It allows you to step forward with understanding instead of reaction. And this is why the shift you are experiencing is so significant. You are not the same person moving through the same patterns. You are someone who can now see those patterns before they fully unfold. And that changes everything moving forward. You are stepping into a level of clarity that connects everything you have experienced up to this point. And what comes next will show you why this awakening had to happen now, not earlier. Not later, but exactly at this moment. Type "I trust my discernment" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 8181 is now activated around your awareness. As your discernment awakens and clarity begins to flow through your life, understand that this light is not meant to stop with you. There are others still searching, still questioning, still trapped in cycles they cannot yet see. When you release your support through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are planting a seed that becomes a harvest in someone else's life. The word speaks. A sower went out to sow, and right now, you are that sower, carrying truth into places where confusion still exists. I feel this clearly. I am stepping into obedience, because I know my action in this moment opens doors for others to receive what I have received. Your giving becomes a stream of clarity, reaching those who are ready but have not yet found this message. Do not wait for another moment. Act now, and let your seed become part of this divine movement. There comes a moment in every journey where everything that once felt tolerable no longer feels acceptable. A moment where the patterns you once endured begin to feel unbearable. A moment where something inside you quietly but firmly says, "This cannot continue." That moment is not random. That moment is not emotional instability. That moment is the breaking point, and you have reached it. Not in a dramatic, explosive way that others can easily see, but in a deep, internal shift that has been building over time. You may have noticed it in small ways at first. A decreased tolerance for situations you once excused. A growing discomfort in environments that once felt familiar. A subtle resistance to repeating the same conversations, the same dynamics. the same emotional cycle that once defined your experiences. At first, you may have tried to push through it. You may have told yourself to be patient, to be understanding, to give things more time. But the more you tried to override that feeling, the stronger it became. Because this was not something to be ignored. This was something to be recognized. This is the moment where everything begins to shift. Archangel Michael reveals that the breaking point is not a sign of collapse, it is a signal of transformation. It is the point where your awareness has expanded beyond your ability to remain in what no longer aligns with you. It is the point where what once felt normal now feels misaligned, and that misalignment creates a pressure that can no longer be contained. You are no longer the same person who entered those cycles. You are no longer operating with the same level of awareness. You are no longer willing to accept what you once tolerated without question. And because of that, the patterns that once repeated with ease can no longer continue in the same way. This is why everything feels different now. You may have noticed that certain dynamics are beginning to fall apart without your effort. Situations that once required your constant involvement are shifting on their own. Conversations are changing. Connections are loosening. Opportunities that once seemed stable are revealing inconsistencies. And while part of you may feel uncertain about these changes, another part of you recognizes that something necessary is happening. This is not loss. This is release. The breaking point is where the old structure can no longer hold the new awareness you have developed. It is where the familiar begins to dissolve, not to leave you without direction, but to create space for something that aligns with who you are now. At this moment can feel uncomfortable, because even when something no longer aligns, it can still feel familiar, and familiarity creates a sense of stability, even when that stability is not beneficial. Letting go of what is familiar, even when it is misaligned, requires a level of trust that does not rely on immediate replacement or instant clarity. This is where many hesitate. This is where the mind tries to hold on to what is known, even when the spirit is ready to move forward. But you are no longer in that place. You are beginning to understand that holding on will only continue what you have already outgrown. You are recognizing that the discomfort you feel is not a sign to go backward, but a signal to move forward with awareness. Archangel Michael makes this clear. The breaking point is where repetition ends and redirection begins. Everything you have experienced up to this moment has been leading you here. Every cycle, every delay, every moment of confusion, every experience that pushed you to question and reflect it has all built toward this point of clarity where you can no longer move unconsciously through the same patterns. And because of that, change is not only possible, it is inevitable. You are not forcing this shift. You are allowing it. You are stepping into alignment not through effort alone, but through recognition of what no longer belongs in your path. And this is where everything begins to accelerate. Because once the old patterns lose their hold, space is created for something new to enter. Not something random, not something uncertain, but something aligned with the awareness you now carry. You may not see the full picture yet. You may not know exactly what is coming next, but you can feel that something is different. You can sense that the direction is changing. You can recognize that what once repeated will no longer find the same place within you to continue. This is the shift. This is the turning point. This is where everything you have experienced begins to lead you into something new. And what comes next will reveal the truth you have been moving toward this entire time. Type "I accept the shift" in the comments if this message resonates with you. Blessing code 9191 is now activated around your path. You have felt it building, haven't you? That quiet sense that something is about to become clear. Not partially clear. Not temporarily understood, but fully revealed in a way that cannot be unseen once it arrives. This is not imagination. This is not anticipation without foundation. This is the moment where everything you have experienced begins to align into a single, undeniable truth. Because now you are ready to see it. Before this point, the truth would have been too fragmented. You would have seen pieces, but not the full picture. You would have understood moments, but not the connection between them. And without that connection, the meaning would have remained incomplete. But now, your awareness has reached a level where everything can come together without confusion. Archangel Michael steps forward in this moment, not with mystery, but with revelation. And what he reveals is this: nothing that happened to you was isolated. Every experience, every delay, every repeated pattern, every moment of uncertainty, it was all part of a single unfolding process designed to bring you into alignment with your own awareness. You were never moving in circles. You were moving in layers. Each cycle you experienced was not a repetition of the same point, but a deeper level of the same lesson. Each time you encountered a similar situation, you were not starting over. You were approaching it from a slightly higher level of understanding, even if it did not feel that way at the time. This is why the patterns felt so familiar, because they were connected. But what you could not see before is that each repetition was refining your perception. It was removing what you no longer needed to carry forward. It was exposing what had remained hidden beneath your initial understanding. And it was guiding you, step by step, toward this exact moment where everything could finally connect. The truth being revealed now is not complicated. It is simple, but it changes everything. You were not meant to avoid those experiences. You were meant to understand them. Because avoidance would have kept the pattern hidden. But experience brought it into your awareness. And now that it is in your awareness, it no longer controls you. Archangel Michael makes this clear. The moment you fully see the pattern is the moment you step outside of it. You are no longer reacting without understanding. You are no longer moving forward without recognizing what is unfolding. You are no longer questioning why things happen in the same way. Because now you see the connection. You see how your responses influenced outcomes. You see how your environment shaped your perception. You see how your timing aligned with your level of awareness. You see how everything, even what felt disconnected, was part of the same process. And once you see that, everything changes. The confusion dissolves. The frustration loses its weight. The past no longer feels like a series of unresolved moments, but a sequence of necessary experiences that brought you to this point of clarity. This is why this moment is so important. Because understanding is not just about knowing what happened. It is about seeing why it happened and what it created within you. You are no longer looking at your past from a place of questioning. You are observing it from a place of recognition. And that recognition gives you something you did not have before. It gives you control over what happens next. Not control in the sense of forcing outcomes, but control in the sense of awareness. The ability to see, to recognize, to choose differently without needing to repeat what you have already learned. This is the shift Archangel Michael is revealing to you. You are no longer bound to the patterns you once lived through. You are no longer influenced by what you did not understand. You are no longer moving without clarity. You are stepping into a space where everything connects. And in that connection there is certainty. Not forced certainty, but natural clarity. A knowing that does not require constant questioning. A direction that does not rely on trial and error. A sense of alignment that feels steady, grounded, and unmistakable. This is what you have been moving toward the entire time. This is why the cycles had to repeat. This is why the delays had to occur. This is why the pain had to refine your awareness. Because without all of it, this level of understanding would not exist. And now that it does, you cannot go back to not seeing it. This is the truth. This is the connection. This is the moment where everything begins to make sense. And what comes next will show you what you are meant to do with this clarity. Type I see the truth in the comments if this message resonates with you. Blessing code 1010 is now activated around your path. Now that everything has been revealed, now that the patterns are no longer hidden, now that the truth has connected every moment you once questioned, you are standing in a place you have never truly stood before. This is not the place of confusion. This is not the place of searching. This is the place of choice. And this choice is different from any you have made before, because it is no longer based on guesswork. It is no longer based on incomplete understanding. It is no longer influenced by patterns you could not see. This choice is rooted in awareness. Clear, grounded, undeniable awareness. Archangel Michael makes this moment unmistakably clear. You now stand between alignment and repetition. Before, repetition happened without your full awareness. You move through cycles because you did not yet see them clearly. You responded in familiar ways because those responses felt natural at the time. You allowed certain dynamics because they matched what you understood then. But now you see. And because you see, repetition is no longer unconscious. It becomes a decision. This is what changes everything. Because from this moment forward, every situation that resembles what you have already experienced will feel different. You will recognize it earlier. You will sense it before it fully unfolds. You will notice the familiar signals, the subtle indicators, the underlying patterns that once took time to reveal themselves. And in that recognition there will be a pause. A moment where you can either move in alignment with what you now understand or move back into what you have already outgrown. This is the true test of awareness. Not whether you can see the pattern, but whether you choose differently when you do. Alignment is not always comfortable at first. It does not always feel familiar. In fact, it often feels like stepping into something unknown, something untested, something that does not match what you have previously experienced. And because of that, there can be a quiet pull to return to what is known, even if what is known is what you have already recognized as misaligned. This is where many hesitate, because familiarity creates the illusion of stability, even when it leads to repetition. But you are no longer in a place where that illusion can hold you the same way. You have seen too much. You understand too clearly. You recognize what you once overlooked. And because of that, returning to the same patterns will not feel the same. It will feel heavier. It will feel more obvious. It will feel like moving against something within you that now knows better. This is why Archangel Michael brings you to this moment with such clarity. Because alignment is not just about moving forward. It is about choosing differently, even when the old path is still available. You will encounter moments where everything looks similar to what you have already experienced. The same type of opportunity, the same type of connection, the same type of situation presenting itself in a slightly different form. And in those moments, your awareness will activate. You will notice what you did not notice before. You will feel what you once dismissed. You will recognize the direction before it fully reveals itself. And that is where your choice exists. You can move with that awareness or you can ignore it. But ignoring it will not feel the same anymore. Because once awareness is present, it does not disappear. It remains. It reminds. It signals. And this is what separates where you were from where you are now. You are no longer navigating blindly. You are no longer discovering patterns after they have already unfolded. You are seeing them in real time. And that means your path forward is no longer shaped by repetition. It is shaped by choice. Archangel Michael reveals that this is the moment where your direction begins to change permanently. Not because external circumstances suddenly become different, but because your internal awareness no longer allows the same cycles to continue in the same way. You are not waiting for change anymore. You are creating it through alignment, through recognition, through the willingness to step away from what you have already understood is not meant to continue. This is not about perfection. This is about awareness in action. And as you continue forward, you will begin to see that alignment does not feel forced. It feels clear. It feels steady. It feels like moving in a direction that does not require constant questioning, because it resonates with what you now understand at a deeper level. You are no longer trying to figure things out the same way. You are moving with clarity. And that clarity is what ensures that what comes next will not repeat what has already been. You have reached the point where everything changes. Not because the world around you has shifted overnight, but because you have. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now activated around your path. This is the moment everything has been leading toward. Not the beginning, not the middle, but the point where all the fragments of your journey finally come together in a way that no longer feels scattered or disconnected. You are no longer looking at isolated events, trying to force meaning into them. You are seeing the full picture, the complete flow, the undeniable connection between everything you have experienced. And as you stand in this awareness, something shifts within you that cannot be undone. Because now it makes sense. The patterns that once frustrated you now reveal their purpose. The delays that once confused you now show their timing. The pain that once felt unnecessary now exposes the awareness it created. The people, the environments, the moments you question, they all align into a single truth that was forming beneath the surface the entire time. You were never moving without direction. You were being guided into understanding. Archangel Michael speaks in this final moment with a clarity that settles deeply within you. Nothing you experienced was separate from where you are now. Every step, every pause, every repetition, every realization, it was all part of a precise unfolding designed to bring you into this level of awareness where you can finally see without distortion. And this changes everything. Because you are no longer asking, "Why did this happen?" You are now understanding, "This is what it created within me." That shift alone transforms how you see your entire past. There is no longer a sense of confusion attached to what you went through. There is recognition. There is clarity. There is a quiet certainty that what once felt unclear now holds meaning that is undeniable. You can look back and see the connections. You can recognize how one experience led to another. You can understand why certain things did not work out when you thought they should have. You can see how each moment refined your awareness, preparing you for this exact level of clarity. And once you see that, there is nothing left to question in the same way. You are no longer searching for answers outside of yourself. You are no longer trying to piece together something that already exists within your awareness. You are standing in understanding. This is the final connection. Not a temporary realization, but a permanent shift in how you perceive your life. And from this point forward, everything changes. Not because external circumstances will suddenly become perfect, but because you will no longer move through them in the same way. You will not interpret them through confusion. You will not respond to them without awareness. You will not repeat what you have already understood. You are moving with clarity. You are moving with recognition. You are moving with a level of awareness that ensures your path forward will not mirror your past. And this is where the true transformation begins. Because understanding is not the end, it is the foundation. The foundation for every decision you make moving forward. The foundation for every connection you allow into your life. The foundation for every opportunity you step into. You are no longer guided by uncertainty. You are guided by awareness. And that awareness will continue to expand as you move forward, revealing even deeper layers of understanding, even greater levels of alignment, even clearer direction in ways that feel natural and steady. You are not returning to where you were. You are stepping into something new. Something that reflects who you have become through everything you have experienced. And now, there is nothing left to hold you in the past. Nothing left to keep you repeating what has already been understood. Nothing left to confuse you in the same way. Because now you see, now you know. Now everything connects. And as you move forward from this moment, you will carry this clarity with you, not as something you have to remind yourself of, but as something that naturally guides you. This is your new awareness. This is your new direction. This is your new beginning. Type "IT all makes sense" now in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 5555 is now activated around your life. As everything connects and clarity settles into your spirit, understand this truth: what you have just received is not only for you. It is meant to reach others who are still lost in confusion, still searching for answers, still waiting for their moment of awakening. When you release your support through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description, you are sowing a seed into a harvest of transformation that extends far beyond this moment. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days," and right now, that promise is alive over your action. I feel this deeply. I step forward in faith, because I know my giving becomes a light for someone still walking in darkness. Your seed becomes a river, carrying truth, clarity, and breakthrough into lives that are ready but have not yet encountered this message. Do not hesitate. This is a divine moment of response. Release your seed now and become part of the movement that awakens souls,